The ancient sleep cycle. Before the clock, long before alarm clocks, fluorescent lights, 9-to-5 workdays, sleep was not what we recognize today. In the age of early humans and ancient civilizations, the rhythm of sleep followed nature's pulse. From the gentle glow of moonlight to the rustle of animals in the underbrush, our ancestors' sleep habits were shaped by their environment, their beliefs, and their survival needs. This segment delves into the mysterious world of pre-industrial sleep, where the darkness brought more than just rest. It brought connection, storytelling, and a sacred relationship with the night. Nature's clock. The sun and moon as sleep regulators in early societies, human sleep was governed by natural light. The sun dictated the beginning and end of daily activity. When the sun set, people would wind down and prepare for rest. Fire, oil lamps, or candles were scarce and costly, so most people embraced the night in its raw form. The absence of artificial lighting meant that darkness was total, and it encouraged an entirely different experience of rest than what we know today. The moon also played a curious role. In many ancient cultures, full moons altered sleep. The increased brightness often led to more activity, rituals, and community gatherings at night. Sleep was not a fixed, solitary ritual, but an adaptive, communal rhythm shaped by nature. Polyphasic patterns. Sleeping in shifts, there is growing evidence that our ancestors did not sleep in one long, uninterrupted stretch. Instead, they likely practiced polyphasic sleep, sleeping in multiple chunks throughout a 24-hour period. This could include an early evening sleep, a period of wakefulness at night, and a second sleep in the early morning hours. Daytime naps or afternoon rest, especially in hot climates, were also common. Anthropological research into tribal societies such as the Hadza in Tanzania or the Pirahu in the Amazon reveals that sleep was often fragmented and communal. People would drift in and out of sleep at different times. Someone was always awake, tending fires or keeping watch. This created a natural form of security for the group. Sleep as a communal act, unlike the modern notion of sleep as a private. Solitary activity in ancient times, sleep was communal. Families and even entire communities might sleep in the same space. Caves, huts, yurts, and longhouses were not built with private bedrooms. Sleeping together offered warmth, protection, and social bonding. Dreams were often discussed in the morning as messages from ancestors or deities. Nighttime became a shared space for storytelling, reflection, and emotional connection. This sharing of dreams and night visions formed an early kind of psychological and spiritual healing. Prehistoric sleep sites and clues from archaeology. Archaeologists have discovered sleeping platforms made of ash, grass, and animal skins in prehistoric caves. These early beds helped keep bugs away and offered insulation. In some cases, hearths were found in sleeping areas, suggesting that fire was used both for warmth and psychological comfort. Evidence from places like Shanidar Cave in Iraq or Border Cave in South Africa reveals that Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens paid attention to sleeping arrangements. They didn't just collapse at the end of the day, they created spaces to rest. This suggests that sleep was not just biological, but also cultural. Spiritual dimensions of sleep in early human history wasn't merely rest. It was also a time when the spirit was believed to travel. Many tribal cultures believed the soul left the body during sleep to explore other realms. Nightmares were seen as warnings. Good dreams as prophecies or blessings. Shamans and spiritual leaders often had special relationships with dreams. They used them to diagnose illness, solve community problems, or communicate with the divine. Sleep and dreaming were not personal escapes, but communal experiences rooted in meaning. The role of fire and security nighttime came with danger. Predators, insects, and rival tribes made nighttime risky. To counter this, fire became the central element of safe sleep. Campfires and hearths weren't just for cooking, they were psychological guardians. The warm glow and crackle of a fire soothed early humans and helped them feel secure. In some cultures, fire was kept burning all night with rotating sleepwatch duties. This ensured someone was always alert, creating a sense of group safety that allowed others to rest.
Fast food.
Fasting and sleep diet also shaped ancient sleep. Without electricity and refrigeration, meals were bound to daylight hours. Feasting occurred after the hunt or harvest, and sleep followed shortly after. Seasonal food scarcity often led to involuntary fasting, which also altered sleep patterns. Modern studies suggest that fasting can change sleep cycles. This was likely a normal part of ancient life. Women, children, and sleep in early human societies, sleep was also gendered. Women often slept lightly due to childcare. Nursing infants throughout the night was common, and co-sleeping was the norm. Children learned to sleep from their mothers, not in cribs or isolated rooms. This kind of sleep was flexible, interrupted, and deeply tied to family rhythms. The idea of a child sleeping through the night is largely a modern invention. Lessons from the past understanding ancient sleep reminds us that our bodies are not designed for rigid, 8-hour blocks of sleep alone in a dark room. Instead, our ancestors embraced fluid, communal, natural patterns of rest. Sleep was not just a necessity, but a sacred act, a social glue, and a spiritual journey. As we move forward in this series, we will see how humanity slowly lost its natural sleep rhythms in favor of artificial routines. But the past lingers in our genes our body remembers. Perhaps it's time to listen. 2 sleeps. The forgotten rhythm, imagine going to bed just after sunset, waking in the middle of the night, then sleeping again until sunrise. This strange pattern was not the invention of modern sleep scientists. It was the norm for centuries. Before industrialization, people across Europe and many other parts of the world practiced what historians now call segmented sleep. Known in contemporary accounts as first sleep and second sleep, this dual-phase nighttime rest challenges our modern understanding of what it means to sleep well. Historical evidence of 2 sleeps diaries, medical manuals, and literature from the Middle Ages through the early 1800s reference first sleep and second sleep as common knowledge. In one 16th century French physician's guide, readers are advised to avoid heavy meals after their first sleep. In Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, characters casually mention waking from their first sleep. This idea was so normalized that it didn't need explanation. It was part of everyday life. Even in legal documents, the term first sleep was sometimes used to describe time periods or alibis, indicating its universal recognition. What did people do during the wakeful gap? This middle-of-the-night period, often called the watch, usually lasted 1 to 2 hours. People used this time in a variety of ways. Prayer and meditation. Many saw the quiet night as the best time to connect with the divine. Household chores, tending fires, checking on animals, or repairing small tools. Reading or writing. If candles or oil were available, some read scriptures or kept journals. Socializing. In some villages, people visited neighbors or spent time with family. Sexual intimacy. Medical texts even recommended this time as ideal for couples. This wakeful period was seen as natural, peaceful, and even productive. It was not insomnia, it was balance. Why 2 sleeps made biological sense, several natural factors made segmented sleep a practical and physiological pattern. Long nights in winter, before electric lights, nightfall came early, especially in winter. Sleeping for 12 to 14 hours straight was difficult. 2 sleeps made better use of the darkness. Body rhythms adapt to light, when exposed only to natural light. Humans often revert to segmented sleep, as shown in modern sleep studies. Melatonin cycles. Studies by Dr. Thomas in the 1990s showed that people left in darkness for 14 hours began naturally dividing their sleep into 2 chunks, with a wakeful period in between, efficient rest. The break between sleeps gave the body a chance to process dreams and emotions, and provided the mind a chance to think clearly. Cultural attitudes toward wakefulness. Unlike today's fear of insomnia, pre-modern societies saw nighttime wakefulness as spiritual, calming, and even sacred. In many religious traditions, monks scheduled prayers during the wakeful interval, for example, matins or vigils. Christian, Islamic, and Buddhist texts reference blessings for those awake at night. Dreams between the 2 sleeps were often considered meaningful, carrying divine or ancestral messages. This between time was spiritually rich and intellectually stimulating. The language of segmented sleep. Common terms used in historical texts include first sleep, second sleep. Dead sleep, morning sleep, watch time, midnight wake. These terms were so widespread that even those who couldn't read or write knew what they meant. It was a part of everyday conversation. Why segmented sleep disappeared with the rise of industrialization in the 18th and 19th centuries. The world's relationship with sleep changed dramatically. Artificial lighting, street lamps, gas lights, and eventually electric bulbs extended the day far into the night. Factory schedules. The clock became king. Workers needed to rise early, which meant compressing sleep into a single block. Urbanization, nightlife, pubs, and other distractions discouraged early bedtime. Medicalization of sleep. The new norm became 8 hours of unbroken sleep, and any deviation was labeled as a disorder. Within just a few generations, people forgot the idea of 2 sleeps entirely. Do we still feel the echoes today? Many people today wake up in the middle of the night, usually around 1 to 3 a.m. in panic. We're taught that waking up means poor sleep, but history suggests otherwise. These wakeful periods may be natural. In fact, some sleep experts now recommend embracing this rhythm. Gentle activities, reading, journaling, or meditating can ease anxiety. Avoid screens. Blue light suppresses melatonin and interrupts the cycle. Stay calm. Don't force sleep. Instead, accept the wakeful moment as part of the process. For many, this mindset shift improves sleep quality. Is segmented sleep making a comeback? With increasing awareness of historical sleep patterns, more people are experimenting with biphasic 2-phase or polyphasic sleep schedules. In some Mediterranean and Latin American cultures, segmented sleep never disappeared entirely. Siestas and nighttime activity still persist. The idea isn't to recreate medieval life, but to challenge the idea that one long sleep is the only healthy way. In fact, it may be less natural than we think. Closing thoughts, segmented sleep wasn't a sleep disorder, it was a sleep culture. It adapted to nature's rhythms and provided space for spiritual, social, and mental clarity. As we rush through modern life chasing 8 uninterrupted hours, perhaps the old ways still whispered to us at midnight. When you find yourself awake in the dark, don't panic. It might just be remembering something your ancestors knew all along. The rise of the candle and sleep compression. The flicker of a candle may seem quaint today, but centuries ago it marked a quiet revolution in how humans slept. As light technology evolved from torches to candles, oil lamps to gas lights, it gradually reshaped humanity's relationship with the night. One of the most profound changes? The slow disappearance of segmented sleep, replaced by what we now call sleep compression, the consolidation of sleep into a single, uninterrupted block. In this segment, we'll explore how the humble candle set in motion a cultural and biological shift in sleep. Patterns and illuminating look at how controlling light also meant controlling rest. From firelight to candlelight, before candles became widely available, people depended on fire-open flames and hearths, torches, and oil lamps. But these light sources were inefficient, smoky, and often dangerous. They were reserved for essential use only, and most people still followed the natural day-night cycle. By the Middle Ages, beeswax candles had become more common in churches and among the wealthy. These candles burned brighter and longer than tallow ones made from animal fat, which were smoky and foul-smelling. Still, they were expensive. A single candle could represent hours of labor. In wealthier households, candlelight extended activity after dark. People could read, write, pray, or conduct business in the evening. This new freedom subtly shifted sleep habits. It delayed bedtime and shortened the overall time people spent in bed. How light began to reshape the night with candlelight came the first real nightlife. While earlier generations had treated night as a time for rest, the upper classes now used the late hours for productivity and entertainment. Scholars and clergy used candlelight to read and write after sunset. Courts and salons held late-night gatherings, discussions, and games. Artists painted by candlelight, giving rise to the dramatic chiaroscuro lighting scene in Baroque art. Merchants and tradesmen started extending working hours. Even though this trend began with the wealthy, its influence eventually trickled down. People began sleeping later, staying awake longer, and valuing nighttime for purposes beyond sleep. The disruption of 2 sleeps before artificial light. Most people slept in 2 phases, first sleep and second sleep, with a waking period in between. But as candles became more accessible, this pattern began to erode. Late-night activities replaced the early first sleep. People delayed going to bed until later at night, leaving less time for two distinct sleep segments. The midnight wakefulness became less common or simply eliminated. By the 17th and 18th centuries, many urban dwellers had transitioned to a compressed sleep schedule. Diaries and letters from this period begin to reflect a single sleep block, with few mentions of segmented sleep. The role of cost and class. Access to light was still shaped by wealth. Candles were expensive, so the poor continued to sleep earlier and rise with the sun. For them, segmented sleep likely persisted longer. But the cultural ideal, the image of the refined, educated person reading by candlelight, became a symbol of status and modernity. Compressed sleep became fashionable, and eventually it became normalized. Oil lamps and gaslight, the sleep revolution accelerates. By the 18th century, oil lamps became more efficient and affordable. Whale oil in particular burned brighter and cleaner than earlier versions. This allowed for better lighting in homes and public places. Then came the real game changer: gaslight. By the early 1800s, gas-powered street lamps illuminated cities like London and Paris. Shops, theaters, and factories stayed open longer. People could move safely through the city at night. As light became public and widespread, nighttime transformed from a private resting time into a space for economic and social activity. Sleep had to adapt. Cultural shift. Sleep becomes a barrier to productivity, with evening activity now normalized. Sleep started to be seen as an obstacle. Time spent sleeping was time not spent earning, studying, or socializing. This attitude intensified as capitalism grew. Philosophers and scientists at the time began debating how much sleep a person really needed. Some even considered it a weakness to require too much rest. The ideal of the efficient sleeper began to form a person who slept only as much as absolutely necessary. Writers like Benjamin Franklin advocated for rising early and working long hours. Sleep was no longer sacred. It was something to conquer, lighting the path to the industrial age. By the 19th century, light had completely transformed the urban nightscape. Gas lamps lit factories, enabling shift work at all hours. Night was no longer a time to rest, it was simply another frontier to be utilized. This shift further compressed sleep. Factory workers had rigid schedules. Sleep had to be squeezed between long shifts and commutes. Even for those not working in factories, the culture of compressed sleep had taken root. The psychological effects of artificial light. We now know that artificial light, especially blue light, can disrupt melatonin production, the hormone that regulates sleep cycles. But even candlelight and gaslight subtly altered natural circadian rhythms. By extending wakefulness past sunset, early artificial lighting shifted the body's internal clock. The result? People stayed up later and struggled to wake early. Fragmented or reduced sleep became common, especially in cities. This change would only accelerate with the invention of electric light. Resistance to sleep compression. Not everyone welcomed the new sleep pattern. Rural communities, religious groups, and older generations often clung to segmented sleep or early bedtimes. In some regions, segmented sleep continued well into the 19th century. Folk remedies and medical advice from the time often encouraged daytime naps or early bedtime, reflecting a lingering memory of older sleep rhythms. But these voices grew quieter as modernization surged ahead. From light to lifestyle, the birth of the modern sleeper. By the end of the 1800s, the image of the modern sleeper was set. Go to bed late, sleep once, in one continuous block. Wake up early and be productive. This model became the cultural standard, further reinforced by electric light, alarm clocks, and later the 20th century workday. Ironically, this compressed sleep model, once a status symbol, now contributes to widespread sleep deprivation, insomnia, and anxiety about not sleeping right. Looking back to look forward. Understanding how light changed our sleep reminds us that modern sleep habits are not rooted in biology. They re-rooted in history, economics, and technology. The rise of candles and artificial light reshaped night itself, and with it, the way we rest. As we move forward in this series, we'll examine how the Industrial Revolution didn't just reinforce compressed sleep, made it mandatory. Factories didn't care about dreams. They cared about the clock. Industrial Revolution and the sleep crisis begins. The Industrial Revolution promised progress, prosperity, and power. But behind the roaring machines and coal-blackened skies, something quieter was unraveling: the human relationship with sleep. With the rise of factories, clocks, and capitalism, sleep was no longer a natural rhythm to follow, but an obstacle to overcome. This segment dives deep into the 18th and 19th centuries to show how one of the most transformative eras in history gave birth to a global sleep crisis, one we are still dealing with today. The machine that never slept. The essence of the Industrial Revolution was efficiency. Factories replaced farms, machines replaced manual labor, and everything ran on time-measured, scheduled, enforced. Sleep, which once responded to sunrises, seasons, and personal need, now had to answer to the factory whistle. Shift work was introduced, requiring people to work odd hours, often at night. 12 to 16-hour workdays were common, leaving little time for proper rest. Clocks ruled life, signaling when to eat, work, and sleep, not the body. In this world of machines, sleep was treated as downtime, a luxury, not a necessity. The fall of the natural sleep rhythm, the segmented sleep pattern that had endured for centuries, finally began to collapse. There was no time for a first sleep and a second sleep. When workers had to be in the factory at dawn and return home exhausted after dark, even for those not in factories, cultural shifts reinforced this change. Artificial lighting allowed people to stay up late and wake early. Urban noise made restful sleep difficult. Social expectations emphasized discipline and early rising. The body still remembered its ancestral sleep rhythms, but society was moving too fast to care. The bed becomes political. As workers demanded better conditions, sleep became a symbol of oppressional resistance. In Britain, France, and the US, labor movements fought for the 8-hour day slogan, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, and 8 hours for what we will. It wasn't just about work, it was about reclaiming sleep. Rest was framed as a right, not an indulgence. But employers, economists, and even some doctors argued against too much sleep, warning it led to laziness. Productivity, not well-being, was the measure of a good life. Living conditions that crushed sleep. Industrial cities grew rapidly, but infrastructure lagged. Working-class families were often crammed into single-room apartments near noisy factories or railroads. Clean water and proper ventilation were rare. Disease, filth, and fire hazards were constant threats. In these tenements, multiple people shared beds or floors. Sleep was often interrupted by noise, illness, or overcrowding. There was little privacy or comfort. The idea of peaceful, uninterrupted sleep became a middle or upper-class privilege. Sleep in the factory age. Factory schedules were brutal. Night shifts forced people to sleep during the day, against their biological clock. Rotating shifts disrupted circadian rhythms, causing long-term health issues. Child labor meant even children were deprived of proper rest. Factory bells replaced roosters. Time was currency, and sleep was a cost to be minimized. Some workers developed chronic insomnia, fatigue, or sleepwalking. Doctors began documenting sleep disorders in the 19th century, many linked directly to industrial labor. The rise of the alarm clock became a necessity, not a convenience. The first mechanical alarm clocks appeared in the 19th century, but they became widespread in homes during the industrial boom. Suddenly, waking up to one's natural rhythm was out of the question. Sleep was now timed, cut short, and forcibly ended. Sleep becomes a medical problem as sleep problems increased. Doctors began studying them seriously. The first sleep clinics would not appear until the 20th century. But the seeds of sleep medicine were planted in the 1800s. Still, the focus was often on fixing the sleeper, making them more compliant, with industrial schedules rather than questioning whether the schedules themselves were the problem. Moralizing sleep. Victorian society especially saw sleep as a reflection of character. Too much sleep was considered lazy and sinful. Too little sleep was praised as virtuous and industrious. Waking early was a moral duty. Sleeping late was a failure of willpower. Popular literature reinforced these ideals. Early risers were heroes. Late sleepers were weak or doomed. The first sleep crisis. By the end of the 19th century, Societies across Europe and North America were facing a new kind of epidemic: chronic sleep deprivation. But unlike plagues or famines, this crisis was invisible and silent. People were exhausted, but they were told to keep pushing. Rest was for the weak. Sleep became associated with shame, guilt, or even moral failure. What did people lose? As the industrial age marched forward, people didn't just lose sleep, they lost. Dream time, once considered spiritual and meaningful. Communal rest, replaced by private, pressured sleep. Respect for natural rhythms, traded for artificial routines. Sleep was no longer sacred. It was something to overcome, conquer, or steal back. The roots of our modern sleep. Problems. Much of today's sleep, crisis, insomnia, anxiety, burnout can trace its roots to the Industrial Revolution. We still work against our circadian rhythms. We still equate productivity with worth. We still feel guilty for sleeping too much. Though we've left the factory floors, we've carried the same mentality into the digital age. Looking ahead, the Industrial Revolution gave us incredible advancements, but it also trained generations to undervalue sleep. The idea that success requires sleeplessness is not new. It's over 200 years old. In the next segment, we'll look at how colonization spread Western sleep standards around the world, disrupting indigenous sleep traditions that had existed for thousands of years. Colonialism and cultural erasure of indigenous sleep, the Industrial Revolution and expanding empires, didn't just reshape Europe and North America. They carried new sleep norms across the world, often violently. Colonizing powers imposed their values, lifestyles, and work schedules on indigenous populations, dismantling ancient sleep traditions and replacing them with alien routines. This segment explores how colonialism disrupted diverse sleep cultures, erasing practices that had evolved for millennia in harmony with local environments. Sleep patterns rooted in nature and culture. Indigenous peoples around the globe developed sleep habits finely tuned to their ecosystems. Many practiced polyphasic sleep, incorporating multiple naps throughout the day. Sleep often followed seasonal rhythms of light, food availability, and weather. Sleep was a communal event. Families and communities slept together for warmth, safety, and bonding. Dreams and night visions were deeply spiritual, guiding personal and social decisions. Rest periods aligned with natural cycles rather than fixed clocks. These sleep patterns weren't random, but were adaptive, sustainable, and meaningful. The colonial disruption European colonizers imposed their own sleep schedules through forced labor regimes, plantation, mining, and industrial work demanded strict 9-to-5 or shift-based hours. Christian missionary schooling. Indigenous children were sent to boarding schools with regimented schedules, including fixed bedtimes. Legal ordinances, curfews, and sleep laws criminalized traditional nighttime activities. Economic restructuring. Subsistence economies were replaced with wage labor, reshaping daily and nightly rhythms. These forces dismantled natural sleep cycles and communal rest practices. The psychological and social impact, the loss of traditional sleep, was not just a biological change, but a cultural trauma. Communities lost nighttime socialization, storytelling, and healing rituals. Spiritual connections to dreams and ancestors were undermined. Sleep became isolated and privatized, breaking family and community bonds. Forced schedules caused chronic fatigue, poor health, and social disintegration. Colonial sleep imposition was a tool of control and assimilation, resistance and resilience despite oppression. Many indigenous groups preserved elements of traditional sleep through secret nighttime ceremonies, adaptations combining old and new rhythms, oral histories preserving dream lore and nighttime customs. These acts of resistance highlight the importance of sleep as cultural identity, reclaiming sleep traditions today. Indigenous communities and scholars are rediscovering and revitalizing traditional sleep knowledge. This includes emphasizing the importance of communal sleep, valuing naps, and segmented rest. Reconnecting with natural rhythms and dream work, this revival challenges Western sleep norms and offers insights for global sleep health. The science of sleep emerges for centuries. Sleep was seen through cultural, spiritual, and practical lenses, but it remained largely a mystery to science. The 19th and 20th centuries marked a turning point. As modern medicine and technology advanced, sleep became a subject of scientific inquiry. Researchers began to uncover its biological foundations, phases, and importance for health. This segment traces the birth of sleep science and how it challenged old ideas, setting the stage for today's understanding and misunderstandings of sleep. Early medical perspectives, early physicians often conflated sleep with unconsciousness or weakness. In the 1800s, sleep was rarely studied systematically. Some doctors viewed it as a passive state or a symptom rather than a vital function. The Industrial Revolution's emphasis on wakefulness influenced medicine to prioritize productivity over rest, yet some medical pioneers recognized sleep's importance for recovery and mental health. The first sleep studies by the late 19th century, researchers began recording sleep patterns using rudimentary methods. Experiments on animals and humans showed that sleep was more than simple inactivity. Advances such as the EEG, electroencephalogram, in the early 20th century allowed scientists to measure brainwaves during sleep. This revolutionized the field. Discovering sleep stages in the 1950s and 60s, scientists identified REM, rapid eye movement, sleep, and non-REM sleep stages. This discovery revealed that sleep was a dynamic process with cycles of light and deep rest, dreaming, and physiological repair. Suddenly, sleep was not just rest, but a complex, active state essential for learning, memory, and emotional health. Sleep disorders and clinical recognition. As sleep science grew, awareness of disorders like insomnia, sleep apnea, and narcolepsy increased. Sleep clinics and laboratories opened worldwide. Sleep medicine became a specialty, combining neurology, pulmonology, and psychiatry. Challenges and misconceptions, despite scientific progress, its cultural myths about sleep persisted. The 8 hours rule became a rigid standard. Sleep problems were often blamed on individual failings. Technology began to intrude on natural rhythms. Science revealed complexity, but social attitudes sometimes lagged. The digital age and new sleep challenges, the late 20th and early 21st centuries, introduced screens, artificial lighting, and 24/7 lifestyles factors that interfere with natural sleep biology. Researchers now study circadian rhythms, blue light effects, and the impact of modern work on sleep health. Modern technology and the battle for sleep, the dawn of the digital age, brought unimaginable convenience, connection, and entertainment. But it also declared a new war on sleep. Screens glow brightly into the night. 24/7 news cycles demand our attention. And social media algorithms keep us scrolling just a little longer. Modern technology transformed the sleep landscape in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. This segment explores how technology reshaped sleep habits, created new challenges, and what it means for our rest today. The screen revolution, from televisions and computers to smartphones and tablets. Screens are now a ubiquitous part of daily life. They bring instant access to information and entertainment, opportunities to socialize and work remotely, new forms of distraction and overstimulation. But screens emit blue light, which interferes with the body's production of melatonin, the hormone that signals it's time to sleep. This disrupts natural circadian rhythms and delays sleep onset, the 24/7 culture. Technology has blurred the lines between day and night. With constant connectivity, work emails arrive late at night. Social media platforms never sleep. Streaming services encourage binge watching. This culture encourages round-the-clock activity and a decline in prioritized rest. Sleep and social media fosters a unique relationship with sleep. Fear of missing out, FOMO, keeps people awake scrolling. Comparison and anxiety from online content contribute to insomnia. Notifications and alerts disrupt sleep continuity. The rise of sleep tech. Ironically, technology is also a major player in the sleep improvement industry. Devices and apps promise sleep tracking and analysis, white noise and meditation guides, smart lighting that adjusts to circadian rhythms. But the effectiveness of many sleep gadgets remains debated. Challenges for younger generations. Studies show that children and teenagers face rising rates of sleep deprivation due to late-night screen use, Academic and social pressures, shifting biological clocks during adolescence. These factors contribute to mental health struggles and lower academic performance. Balancing technology and sleep health experts suggest practical steps: limiting screen time before bed, using night mode or blue light filters, creating tech-free bedrooms, establishing consistent sleep routines. It's looking ahead. Technology isn't inherently bad for sleep, but without mindful use, it can exacerbate sleep problems. Understanding how digital tools influence our biology and behavior is key to reclaiming healthy rest in a connected world. The cultural shift: sleep as a status symbol in recent decades. The conversation around sleep has undergone a profound transformation. No longer just a biological necessity, sleep has emerged as a lifestyle choice, a status symbol, and even a luxury commodity. While previous eras emphasized sacrificing sleep for productivity, the pendulum is swinging back, but not equally for all. This segment explores how sleep has evolved into a symbol of affluence, wellness, and privilege in modern society. From sleep when you're dead to sleep is the new wealth. In the late 20th century, hustle culture dominated. Success was often tied to how little you slept. CEOs boasted of working 100-hour weeks. Students pulled all-nighters as a badge of honor. Phrases like "sleep is for the weak" became common. However, as awareness of the health impacts of sleep deprivation grew, a counter-narrative emerged. Now, getting 8 hours of sleep is associated with being health-conscious, efficient, and in control. The wellness industry and sleep commodification, a booming wellness industry, has capitalized on this shift. Luxury mattresses costing thousands of dollars, weighted blankets, blackout curtains, and sleep trackers. Sleep retreats in spa resorts and 5-star hotels. Influencers and biohackers promoting sleep hygiene as a personal brand. In many ways, sleep has become something you can buy if you can afford it. Inequality in the bedroom. While the affluent optimize their sleep with ideal conditions, others face persistent barriers. Low-income workers with irregular or night shifts, parents juggling jobs and caregiving, urban dwellers facing light pollution and noise. For many, good sleep remains out of reach. The cultural shift has created a paradox. Sleep is essential, but increasingly unequal. The rise of sleep guilt. Ironically, as sleep becomes a moral and health imperative, some people feel guilty for not sleeping well. Anxiety about not getting enough sleep makes insomnia worse. People blame themselves rather than the conditions they live in. Apps and trackers sometimes fuel obsession rather than relief. The pressure to sleep perfectly can be as harmful as sleep deprivation itself. Sleep is a class marker. Today, sleep is a subtle marker of privilege. Those who can work remotely with flexible schedules, afford homes with quiet, dark bedrooms, take naps during the day, signal that they have control over their time and well-being. Meanwhile, others continue to grind without rest. Cultural messaging in media. The media reflects and reinforces this trend. Articles highlight morning routines of millionaires. TV ads feature serene, candlelit bedrooms. Podcasts and books promote optimized sleep. Sleep is marketed as part of a curated, successful lifestyle, not as a universal right. Moving towards sleep equity, there's a growing movement to view sleep as a public health issue. Advocacy for better labor policies and work-life balance. Urban design focusing on quiet and dark residential zones. Education about sleep in schools and workplaces. Experts argue that everyone deserves restful sleep, not just the wealthy. Conclusion: rest as resistance in a world that profits from exhaustion. Prioritizing sleep, especially among the marginalized, can be an act of resistance. Recognizing that rest is not a privilege but a necessity is key to building a more equitable society. In the next segment, we'll explore how globalization and digital communication are further reshaping sleep in the 21st century. Globalization, connectivity, and the 24-hour world. The world today is always on. Airports operate through the night. Stock markets open while others close across the globe. A video can go viral in one hemisphere while the other sleeps. This is the era of globalization, and with it has come a new distortion of our relationship with rest. This segment explores how interconnected economies, multinational cultures, and instant communication have created a 24-hour society where sleep is increasingly sacrificed to stay relevant, competitive, or merely awake. The global economy never sleeps with globalization. Businesses expanded beyond local or national boundaries. International trade, outsourcing, and remote collaboration meant that work could span time zones. American companies scheduled meetings with Asia at midnight. European factories answered American clients in the middle of their night. Customer support in India worked on graveyard shifts to align with Western daytime hours. The concept of business hours blurred, and workers began adapting their sleep to fit international demands. Jet lag as a lifestyle. As business travel exploded in the 20th and 21st centuries, so did the experience of jet lag. Executives, flight crews, and digital nomads crossed multiple time zones in a day, disrupting their circadian rhythms repeatedly. Sleep became fragmented, shallow, and increasingly medicated. Caffeine, sleep aids, and stimulants became standard travel companions. Jet lag wasn't just a side effect, it became a symbol of global status. The internet. Eternal daylight. The internet never sleeps. Whether you're in Dhaka or Dubai, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok are always active. Messages arrive at 3 a.m. Zoom calls are scheduled at odd hours. Friends and coworkers ping each other from different continents. This perpetual connectivity means that even when you're supposed to be winding down, the world is still knocking on your digital door. Always on work culture. Many industries now expect employees to be reachable at all times. Phrases like, "Can you just check this quickly? It's only a 5-minute task. We're on a tight global deadline," have led to email insomnia and bedroom offices, where the boundary between work and rest is non-existent. Managers praise flexibility, but in reality, it often means constant availability. Global shifts in sleep disorders. The rise of the 24-hour world has coincided with rising rates of sleep-related problems, insomnia and anxiety, irregular sleep-wake disorder, social jet lag, misalignment between biological and social time. These are not individual failings, but the result of a system that prioritizes productivity over rest. Coping mechanisms to function in this world. People rely on coffee and energy drinks to stay awake, melatonin, alcohol, or sedatives to fall asleep, weekend sleep binging to compensate. These strategies offer short-term relief but undermine long-term health. Sleep inequality goes global. Not everyone suffers equally. While affluent professionals struggle with sleep from too many demands, workers in developing countries often face long hours, multiple jobs, and poor sleep environments. The same sleep disparity seen during the Industrial Revolution now plays out on a global scale. In countries with 24/7 factory work or call centers, sleep is sacrificed not for convenience but for survival. Resistance and adaptation despite the challenges. People are pushing back. Companies instituting right to disconnect policies, nations exploring shorter work weeks. Digital wellness tools promoting screen limits. Individuals are setting time boundaries, using apps to reduce notifications, or even returning to analog practices like print books and meditation. Conclusion: the double-edged sword globalization has connected us, enriched us, and opened up incredible possibilities. But it has also hijacked our nights. In the race to be always connected, always productive, and always present, we have forgotten the essential stillness of sleep. Reclaiming rest in a 24-hour world requires collective change, not just in personal habits, but in policies, work cultures, and how we define success. In the next segment, we'll explore how sleep science emerged to address these growing problems, what it reveals about our modern insomnia, the emergence of sleep science in the lab years. By the mid-20th century, sleep finally began to gain the attention of scientists. Once dismissed as a passive, unimportant state, sleep was now considered worthy of scientific inquiry. The rise of sleep laboratories, EEG technology, and an expanding understanding of brain function unlocked mysteries that had puzzled humanity for centuries. This segment explores the rise of sleep science and how laboratory research reshaped our understanding of rest, dreams, and health. The first sleep labs. The first dedicated sleep laboratories emerged in the 1950s. Researchers began hooking up volunteers to machines that measured brain waves, eye movement, heart rate, and breathing during sleep. The results were groundbreaking. Sleep was far from a passive activity. It was revealed to be dynamic, composed of distinct stages, each critical to health and mental well-being. REM sleep and dream research in 1953. Scientists Eugenia Sorensky and Nathaniel Kleitman discovered REM sleep rapid eye movement, a stage associated with vivid dreaming and increased brain activity. This discovery shattered the notion that the brain shuts off during rest. Instead, it cycles through different states. Non-REM sleep, deep rest. Physical recovery. REM sleep, mental processing. Memory consolidation, emotional regulation. REM sleep became a major focus of dream research. Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theories were now rivaled by neuroscience, which sought to understand the biological basis of dreaming. Sleep cycles and the 90-minute rhythm sleep scientists identified that sleep occurs in 90-minute cycles, moving between light sleep, deep sleep, and REM. A typical adult experiences 4 to 6 cycles per night. Disrupting these cycles through alarms, stress, or shift work could impair memory, mood, and cognitive function. The importance of completing full cycles became a central theme in modern sleep hygiene. Sleep disorders entered the spotlight as labs expanded. Researchers began to document and define a wide range of sleep disorders: insomnia, trouble falling or staying asleep, sleep apnea, interrupted breathing during sleep narcolepsy, sudden sleep attacks during the day, restless leg syndrome, uncomfortable leg sensations, and urge to move once seen as personal failings or oddities. These issues were now recognized as medical conditions requiring diagnosis and treatment. The role of the circadian rhythm. Studies showed that humans have an internal clock, the circadian rhythm that governs sleep-wake cycles. Controlled by the brain's suprachiasmatic nucleus SCN, this rhythm responds to light and darkness. Disruption of circadian rhythms, for example via jet lag, night shifts, or artificial lighting, was found to contribute to sleep problems, fatigue, and long-term health issues. Sleep and memory. Sleep was also shown to be critical to learning and memory. Experiments demonstrated that sleep after studying improves retention. REM sleep aids in processing emotions. Deep sleep helps consolidate facts and skills. This knowledge revolutionized how educators, therapists, and even athletes approached rest and performance. The medicalization of sleep. With more research came more treatment options. Sleep clinics opened worldwide. Doctors began prescribing CPAP machines for apnea, melatonin supplements for jet lag, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. CBTI sleep became medicalized, no longer just personal or cultural, but a domain of science, insurance, and pharmaceuticals. The limits of the lab. Despite its many advances, lab-based sleep science had limitations. Lab environments differ from natural settings. Many studies were based on male subjects, neglecting gender and age variations. Cultural contexts of sleep were often ignored. The science was powerful, but not yet complete. Conclusion. Sleep enters the scientific age. The emergence of sleep science transformed how we think about rest. From REM to circadian rhythms, it validated that sleep is not optionally, it's biological, essential, and measurable. But the journey was only halfway. We'll explore in the next segment. Public health systems and governments began to take note, turning sleep into a matter of population health, economics, and productivity. Sleep as public health, policy, work, and productivity in the 21st century. Sleep is no longer just a personal concern, has become a matter of public health. Policymakers, employers, and healthcare professionals increasingly recognize that sleep influences not only individual well-being, but also economic output, workplace safety, and long-term societal health. This segment explores how sleep transitioned from a private habit to a collective priority, shaped by new data, shifting work norms, and changing public attitudes. The economic cost of sleep deprivation. Studies from the Rand Corporation and the CDC have estimated that sleep-deprived workers cost countries billions of dollars annually in lost productivity. Fatigue-related errors in sectors like transportation, healthcare, and manufacturing can lead to deadly accidents and massive financial loss. Such, sleep is now viewed not just as a health issue, but a critical economic factor.
Ow.
The science behind the shift. Emerging research in neuroscience and physiology has made sleep's importance undeniable.
Ow.
Poor sleep is now linked to increased risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes, impaired memory, concentration and decision-making, weakened immune function, higher rates of anxiety and depression with sleep, affecting everything from school performance to national security. Ignoring it became unsustainable. The rise of workplace sleep policies. Some progressive companies, like Google and Nike, began offering nap pods and flexible hours to support employees' natural rhythms. Others revised shift schedules to reduce burnout. Although still rare globally, such efforts marked a turning point. Some governments also introduced labor laws too. Limit overnight work, mandate rest periods, promote awareness of sleep hygiene. Japan's inamiri culture, napping at work, was once mocked in the West, but is now reconsidered as a model of sleep integration. School start times and teen sleep advocates have campaigned for later school start times to align with adolescent circadian rhythms. In the U.S., districts that shifted start times reported better grades, fewer car accidents, improved student mental health. Yet many schools resist due to transportation and scheduling logistics. Sleep equity and the marginalized sleep disparity is a growing field of research. People in low-income communities in shift-based jobs are more likely to suffer sleep deprivation. Contributing factors include noise and light pollution, unsafe housing, or neighborhoods' long commutes, inconsistent schedules. Addressing these disparities has become a social justice issue, as unequal sleep leads to unequal health outcomes. Pandemic here awakening COVID-19 disrupted global routines, highlighting sleep's fragility. While remote work helped some reclaim lost sleep, others faced increased anxiety, screen time, and blurred work-life boundaries. The pandemic sparked a wider dialogue around mental health. Burnout is pushing sleep even further into the public policy spotlight. Public campaigns and awareness, governments and NGOs have launched campaigns to promote sleep hygiene. Francis Salmel, et. US CDC's Sleep and Chronic Disease Awareness Program's Global World Sleep Day observances. These efforts aim to destigmatize sleep and encourage healthier habits across populations. Challenges and resistance. Despite advances, many workplaces and institutions still undervalue sleep. Cultural narratives of hustle, productivity, and sleep when you're dead persist. Changing this mindset requires deep cultural shifts, not just data. Leaders must model healthy sleep behavior, and policies must protect rest as a right. Looking ahead as artificial intelligence, remote work, and hybrid schedules evolve, there's a chance to redesign work and education around natural human rhythms. Sleep, once an afterthought, is becoming a pillar of public health planning. The conversation is no longer about whether we need sleep, but how society can protect it. In the next segment, we'll explore how consumer culture and the sleep industry turned rest into a market worth billions. The sleep economy, from pillows to pills sleep, once a simple biological necessity, has become a commodity. The sleep economy encompassing products, services, technologies, and pharmaceuticals now generates billions of dollars annually. From luxury mattresses to melatonin-infused drinks, society is investing more in sleep than ever before. But what does it mean when rest becomes something you can buy? This segment explores how capitalism has reshaped the way we think about sleep, what it means for inequality, and whether buying better sleep really leads to better rest. The rise of sleep products. The modern market offers an array of sleep aids. Memory foam and smart mattresses, weighted blankets and blackout curtains, aromatherapy diffusers, and sleep-inducing teas. Sleep tracking watches and apps, each promises more restful nights and more energized days. But the promise is often more psychological than physiological. The melatonin boom. Melatonin, a naturally occurring hormone, became a best-selling over-the-counter supplement in the 2000s. While useful for jet lag and circadian rhythm disorders, its widespread use is largely unregulated. Many take melatonin nightly without understanding dosage or long-term effects. The supplement industry, largely unregulated, profits from a growing population desperate for better sleep. Big pharma and prescription sleep aids. Pharmaceutical companies also profit from the sleeplessness epidemic. Prescription medications like Ambien, Lunesta, and benzodiazepines are commonly prescribed for insomnia. While effective for short-term use, these drugs carry risks. Dependency, memory issues, sleepwalking, or abnormal behaviors, and they don't always address root causes, such as stress, overwork, or poor sleep hygiene. Sleep as a luxury experience. High-end hotels now market their sleep environments. Pillow menus, like blackout shades, sleep concierges, and aromatherapy turn-down services. Some tech companies even offer nap pods or meditation rooms to boost productivity, framing sleep not as a human right, but as a workplace tool. Quality in the sleep economy. The irony is clear. Those who can afford better sleep already have access to healthier sleep environments. Meanwhile, lower-income communities often face noisy, crowded housing, shift work, and multiple jobs, less access to health care. The sleep economy thrives on those who can pay, but the sleep crisis persists among those who cannot. Data, privacy, and sleep tech. Sleep trackers and apps promise insight into your sleep cycles, but they also collect sensitive health data. Who owns this data? How is it used? Tech companies profit from sleep analytics, but transparency remains murky. Consumerism versus science. While the sleep economy grows, sleep scientists often warn against over-reliance on products. The fundamentals remain simple. Stick to a routine. Avoid screens before bed. Create a dark, quiet environment. Manage stress. These require lifestyle changes, not purchases. A sleep wellness paradox. The wellness industry tells us sleep is essential to beauty, productivity, and success. But this framing turns rest into another item on a to-do list, causing more anxiety. Ironically, worrying about getting enough sleep often makes it harder to fall asleep. Conclusion? Can sleep be bought? The sleep economy reflects modern anxieties, a fast-paced, always-on world trying to reclaim a basic human function through commerce. But sleep is not just a product, it's a right. Reclaiming it may require not more gadgets or pills, but a cultural shift back toward balance, rest, and respect for our natural rhythms. The return to natural rhythms. Movements in the 21st century. In recent years, a quiet revolution has begun. After centuries of interference, exploitation, and commodification, there is a growing push to return to more natural, holistic sleep patterns. This segment explores the resurgence of ancient rhythms, new lifestyle movements, and the collective yearning for rest in a world that never stops. A reaction to burnout culture. Modern life is synonymous with hustle. The glorification of productivity and grind culture has led to widespread burnout. In response, workers are advocating for shorter work weeks. Mental health days are becoming normalized. Movements like slow living are gaining traction. Sleep is seen not as laziness but as essential self-care. Digital detox and circadian alignment. A growing number of people are reducing screen time and using blue light blocking glasses. They're turning to nature to recalibrate their sleep cycles, waking with the sun dimming lights after dusk. Camping or going off-grid to reset circadian rhythms. Apps that once disrupted sleep are now being used to protect it. Modern wellness communities are rediscovering traditional sleep practices. Ayurveda encourages alignment with dashic cycles. Traditional Chinese medicine promotes bedtime rituals tied to organ clocks. Indigenous cultures emphasize rest as a spiritual practice. Sleep is becoming a ritual again, not just a routine. The rise of sleep retreats. Similar to wellness getaways, sleep retreats offer technology-free zones, guided meditation and breath work, natural lighting, and soundproof rooms, education on sleep science. People now pay to relearn what was once instinctual. Workplaces and sleep-conscious design. Forward-thinking employers recognize that rested workers are better workers. Changes include nap pods in offices, flexible schedules to accommodate natural sleep needs. Lighting designed to mimic natural daylight cycles. Sleep is becoming part of workplace architecture. The biophilic bedroom designers are integrating nature into sleep spaces. Indoor plants for air quality. Natural materials like wood and cotton windows positioned for sunrise exposure. Homes are being redesigned to support healthy sleep, from alarm clocks to intuitive waking. Some people are rejecting alarm clocks altogether, choosing instead to go to bed earlier, allow the body to wake naturally. Use light-based wake-up devices rather than harsh sounds. The goal is to make waking feel as natural as sleeping. Children and rewilded sleep. Parents are teaching children better habits. bedtime stories instead of screens, early sleep and wake routines, connection with natural day-night cycles. Schools are even reconsidering early start times. Collective rest and activism movements like the Nat Ministry advocate rest as resistance, especially for marginalized communities. As a response to racial capitalism and generational exhaustion, framing rest as a form of liberation, rest becomes a radical act. Conclusion: a sleep renaissance. We may be at the beginning of a sleep renaissance. It's one that blends ancient practices with modern science, spiritual care with social justice, and rest with resilience. Rather than treating sleep as a luxury or a struggle, this movement reminds us that sleep is a birthright. Honoring it may be the first step toward healing our minds, our bodies, and perhaps our world. Dreams, memory, and the mind. The mystery unfolds for millennia. Dreams have fascinated humanity. Whether seen as messages from the gods, the workings of the unconscious mind, or meaningless brain static, dreams remain a profound part of the sleep experience. In this segment, we explore how dreams shape memory, emotion, and identity, and how modern science is only beginning to uncover their mysteries. Dreams in ancient cultures. In ancient Egypt, dreams were recorded on papyrus and interpreted by priests. Greek temples served as sites of dream incubation where visitors slept in sacred spaces hoping for divine visions. Indigenous cultures across the globe treated dreams as guidance from ancestors or the spiritual realm. Dreams were once central to healing practices, decision-making, myth-making, and storytelling. Freud, Jung, and the birth of dream psychology in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Sigmund Freud proposed that dreams were a royal road to the unconscious. His student-turned-rival Carl Jung expanded the theory, suggesting dreams reveal archetypes and deeper collective meanings. Dreams entered the realm of Western science, not just mysticism. The role of REM sleep. Modern neuroscience identified REM, rapid eye movement. Sleep is the primary stage in which dreaming occurs. It is linked to memory consolidation, emotional processing, learning, and creativity. Brain scans show high activity during REM sleep similar to wakefulness. Memory processing and nighttime editing. Researchers discovered that dreams may act as a kind of mental filing system. During sleep, the brain strengthens useful memories, weakens or discards irrelevant information, integrates emotional experiences into memory networks. Dreams may serve a cognitive and emotional housekeeping role. Nightmares and trauma. Nightmares often stem from stress, fear, or unresolved trauma. They serve both as a warning sign of psychological distress, a way for the brain to process and survive overwhelming emotions for trauma survivors. Therapy approaches like image rehearsal therapy help reshape nightmares into safer dreamscapes. Lucid dreaming and dream control. Lucid dreaming, the ability to become aware within a dream and even control it, is being studied as a tool. 4. Healing phobias, enhancing creativity, improving motor skills, and rehearsal. Some cultures, like Tibetan Buddhists, have long practiced dream yoga as a spiritual discipline. AI in the dream frontier. As artificial intelligence attempts to map consciousness, researchers are exploring dream recording via neural activity mapping, AI dream interpretation tools. The philosophical question: can machines dream? Dreams may be the final frontier between human and machine cognition. Dreams as identity and culture. Our dreams reflect personal fears and hopes, cultural narratives and norms, collective anxieties of the time. For example, pandemic dreams, climate change nightmares. They're not just private experiences, they are social and historical artifacts. The mystery persists despite scientific advancements. Many mysteries of dreaming remain. Why do some people never recall their dreams? What makes certain dreams feel more real? Can we reliably influence or program our dreams? The answers remain elusive. Conclusion: the mind's hidden landscape. Dreams are the stories the brain tells when the world is quiet. Whether a tool for memory, an emotional compass, or a gateway to the unconscious, they continue to shape who we are. As we deepen our exploration of the mind, we may come to see dreaming not as a side effect of sleep, but as one of its most essential purposes. The future of sleep, innovations, ethics, and the unknown as the journey through history brings us to the present and beyond. The future of sleep sits at the intersection of science, ethics, and possibility. New technologies, shifting societal norms, and deepening research are converging to reshape not just how we sleep, but what sleep means to us as individuals and a global society. The promise of personalized sleep, advances in biometrics, genomics, and wearable tech are making it possible to tailor sleep strategies to the individual. Soon, our sleep environments may be able to adapt in real time too. Brain activity, hormone levels, breathing patterns, emotional states, sleep tracking is evolving from passive monitoring to active optimization. Smart homes and sleep pods. The future bedroom may resemble a science lab or meditation chamber. AI-assisted beds that adjust firmness and temperature, sleep pods in offices, airports, and even schools. Smart lighting systems that simulate natural dawns and sunsets. Technology is being leveraged to recreate the cues our ancestors received from nature. Pharmaceuticals and cognitive sleep enhancement. Neuropharmacology is developing drugs that induce more restorative deep sleep, reduce the need for sleep altogether, enhance memory consolidation during rest. But ethical questions arise. Should we chemically control sleep? Will access be equitable or widen health disparities? What happens to dreams in a drug-induced rest? Sleep inequality and global justice. The future must also address who gets to sleep well. Across the world, factors like poverty, overwork, urban noise, and security still prevent billions from enjoying healthy sleep. Without global sleep equity, health and productivity gains will remain uneven. AI and brain-machine interfaces experiments are underway too. Record dreams and thoughts via neural signals. Allow brain-to-computer interaction during sleep. Reprogram fears, habits, or even personalities. Such possibilities carry enormous ethical weight. Where does sleep end and consciousness begin? Virtual reality and dream worlds' future sleep may not be limited to unconscious rest. Some scientists and artists envision VR environments experienced during REM sleep. Controlled lucid dreaming as a creative or therapeutic tool, shared dreamlike virtual experiences, these could change not just rest, but how we relate to reality. Environmental shifts in sleep and crisis, climate change, mass migration, and social instability could deeply affect sleep in the coming decades. Heat waves reduce sleep quality, displacement affects routines. Constant crisis feeds stress and nightmares. Adaptation strategies will be necessary for sleep in a world of disruption. A new philosophy of sleep, the future of sleep, may not only be technological, it could be philosophical. Reclaiming rest as a right, not a luxury. Understanding sleep as a communal. Cultural needs shifting from doing to being. Sleep may become a social and spiritual practice, not just a medical one. Conclusion. The final frontier of being human, sleep has shaped every moment of our evolution, every layer of our culture, every beat of our hearts. As we dream forward into the unknown, one thing remains clear. The way we sleep shapes the way we live. By learning from the past and innovating with care, we can create a future where sleep is not just protected, but celebrated as a vital part of being fully human. This story video was generated with the assistance of artificial intelligence, AI. While the content is based on historical themes and informed by research, certain elements such as characterizations, dialogue, or speculative ideas may contain fictional or dramatized interpretations. Please do not treat this as a substitute for academic or professional sources. Always verify critical historical facts from trusted references.